Suicide notes. Day 34. I'll never know what Sadie would have thought about my dream. I was going to tell her, but she. No, wait. I have to start at the beginning. If I don't, I'm going to get everything mixed up, because right now it's all swirling around in my brain. I can catch bits and pieces of it, but trying to see the whole picture at once is really hard. I don't even know if I want to see it. If I see it, I might fall apart. So yesterday morning, after the famous Jeff and Rankin get busted incident, I got dressed and walked down the hall to the lounge. I did not take a shower, which is a little gross, but I don't exactly have a great track record in that department lately. Part of me expected everyone to be lined up waiting to tell me how awful I was before they threw me out. But no one else was up. Instead, Goody was sitting at the desk reading a file. I wondered if it was mine, and if she knew what happened. Dr. Katsropus is waiting for you in his office, she said, answering that question. I walked down the hall to Cat Poop's office and knocked. He opened it, and I walked into his office, not saying anything or even looking at him. I sat down in the chair across from his desk and waited for him to tell me I was leaving. Do you want to talk about what happened last night? He said. Not really, I told him, but I'll bet $1 billion that you do. He nodded. Do you have anything to say about it? I shook my head. Let me ask you this, said Cat Poop. How did it happen? What do you mean, how did it happen? How did it happen? He repeated. I think it's a pretty straightforward question. I kind of huffed at him. It was a stupid question, is what it was. I shrugged. He came into my room, got into my bed, and tried to burgle me, I said. Cat Poop pushed his glasses up. You're sure? He asked. Of course I'm sure, I answered. Trust me, if some guy tries to stick his junk in you, you know it. I mean that you're certain you didn't encourage Rankin in any way. I had to think about that one. I mean, Rankin, the one who started it every time we've done anything. But it's not like he's ever forced me to do it, and until last night, I've never exactly told him not to do what he's done. Maybe if I had, he wouldn't have kept trying, but I didn't want to tell Cat Poop that. It would just make me look like a victim, and he'd want to talk about it even more. Are you suggesting that I asked for it because I wore my sexy boxers? I asked instead. I spoke to Rankin this morning, said the doc. He said it was you who talked him into doing it. What? I said. He said I started it? I couldn't believe that Rankin had lied. Well, yes, I could. Still, it pissed me off. It was not my idea, I said more to myself than Cat Poop. He's the one who came into my room. He's the one who's a... I stopped myself from saying it, but I thought it. A fag. Rankin was the fag around here, not me. Cat Poop pushed his glasses up his nose again. I almost told him to knock it off. Jeff, I have to tell you that this is a serious breach in hospital rules. You could be asked to leave the program. Finally, I muttered. If I'd known that, I would have done it a long time ago. Unless, said Doc, there's some other reason for your behavior. Something relates to your overall reason for being here. It took me a minute to understand what he was saying. When I did, I got mad. Nice, I said. You're trying to get me to talk by threatening to kick me out for something I didn't do. Where'd they teach you that? Shrink torture school? Cat Poop leaned forward. All I'm asking is if what you did with Rankin has any connection to why you hurt yourself, he said. No, I said instantly. It has nothing to do with it. I mean, I fooled around with Sadie too, and that didn't mean... I stopped, realizing that I just made a huge mistake. You and Sadie, Cat Poop started to say. His finger was already halfway to his nose. No, I interrupted. I didn't mean it like that. What exactly did you mean, he asked. I searched around in my head for some answer to give him. Anything that could erase what I'd already said, but I knew I couldn't. I'd gone too far. All right, I said. Yeah, I fooled around with Sadie, but I couldn't. I looked at my hands, which were in my lap. My fingers were wrestling with each other. Couldn't what? I forced my hands to be still. Couldn't, do it, I mumbled. And with Rankin, it was just fooling around. Nothing serious. It's not like I'm in love with him or anything. Not like it was with... Again, I realized too late that I'd slipped up. That made twice in less than 5 minutes. If I didn't do damage control and fast, I was basically going to make sure I was on the next bus out of here. And for some reason, I didn't want to be on that bus. With whom? Cat Poop asked. Nobody, I said. I was just talking. With Allie? He said. I could feel his eyes on me. I started to say that, yeah, it was with Allie, but I didn't. I didn't say anything. He was starting to win, and I didn't want him to win. I wanted to be the winner, even if it meant letting him think I'd come on to Rankin or whatever. And that's when he dropped the bomb. Jeff, he said, I have to tell you something about Sadie. I know we shouldn't have, I said, trying to head him off. It was bad enough that I was probably going to get kicked out. I didn't want to be responsible for Sadie having to leave too. So I just kept talking, hoping it would make him change his mind. That time it was my idea. I'm the one who went into her room. She didn't come into mine. And really, it was no big thing anyway. I was just feeling lonely. You can even ask her. Jeff, listen, he said. His voice sounded weird, and suddenly I wanted to be anywhere but in this office. The way he looked reminded me of the way my dad looked at the time he had to tell Amanda that her cat got hit by a car. What? I asked. Did she leave already? Did you kick her out? Because I'm telling the truth. You can't just... Jeff, Cat Poop interrupted. Sadie's dead. I knew he hadn't just said that. I mean, there's no way he could have said that. Sadie's dead? No, I was sure I'd heard wrong. He'd said Sadie's gone. That's what he'd said. What do you mean? I asked him. What do you mean she left? Last night, he said. You heard the screaming, right? But that was Martha, I said. Moonface said it was Martha. He nodded. It was Martha, he said. She had a bad dream, I said. Cat Poop actually took off his glasses. It was the first time he's ever done that, and it made him look naked and tired. Then I realized that he hadn't shaved. It was like he'd been up all night. He rubbed his eyes for a minute before talking again. Martha went to Sadie's room, he said. I imagine she did have a bad dream and wanted to be comforted. She found Sadie. Found her what? I asked him, not understanding. He shook his head. Dead, he said, flat, just like that. She found Sadie dead. I laughed. I know it sounds weird, but I did. You're kidding, I said. You'd better be kidding, because Sadie is not dead. She's waiting to have breakfast with me. It's pancake day. I'm sorry, said Cat Poop. I know this is difficult for you to hear and accept, particularly under the circumstances, and I wouldn't have told you now, but under the circumstances, I said. Then I started laughing again. I don't know why. It just started pouring out of me, this loud laughter, like some kind of crazy clown. I don't think I was even thinking anything. I was just laughing. And then it turned into crying. I was crying, just bawling my eyes out. Then the next thing I know, Cat Poop was beside me. He actually hugged me, and I let him. I let him hug me while I bawled. I still didn't believe him about Sadie, but I cried anyway. After a while, I didn't even know why I was crying. I didn't know if it was because of the Rankin thing or the Sadie thing or the Jeff thing, and it didn't matter. It just felt good. I don't know how long I cried, but it felt like 100 hours. I think part of me thought that if I just kept crying, none of it would be real. Sadie wouldn't be dead. The stuff with Rankin would never have happened. I wouldn't be crazy. But she is, and it did, and I am.